Here is absolutely everything you need to know about one of the most iconic antagonists in horror media. By the end of this video, you will turn from a Night 1 Springtrap into an aggressive nightmare Springtrap in no time. We're gonna speedrun this section because I'm sure most of you know the gist. There was this guy named William Afton, aka the Purple Guy, because he was purple for some reason. And Afton is the person who designed the iconic FNAF animatronics. He's also the co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment, which is kind of the equivalent of a Chuck E. Cheese in this universe. However, prior to the FNAF animatronics you know and love, there was an incident where William Afton's son was put into the mouth of an animatronic named Fredbear, which had a mechanical failure and snapped its jaw shut, killing his son instantly. This tragedy caused Afton to spiral into insanity, and he ended up killing his business partner's daughter as some sort of twisted revenge. And apparently, this gave him a newfound lust for murder. Afton would wear a special animatronic suit called a Springlock suit, which is essentially a hybrid between an animatronic and a mascot costume. You're able to move the mechanical gears inside of the suit back to make room for your body, with only the slight downside of the gears brutally crushing anybody inside, but that isn't relevant, so don't worry about that. Anyway, Afton would wear this quote-unquote Spring Bonnie suit to lure children into the back room and take their lives. But obviously, he would need to do something with the bodies, so he put them inside of his animatronics, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Somehow the children's souls were fused with the animatronics and their spirits possessed them, so they could freely walk around and do a bunch of terrifying, nightmarish things like building a fort. For the sake of brevity, I'm gonna skip past a bunch of details, but eventually the spirits of the children corner Afton in the hidden back room where he murdered them, and in a panic, he gets into his murderous Spring Bonnie suit in an attempt to scare them. However, and I bet you'll never see this one coming, his sweat created moisture on the spring locks, which caused them to malfunction and instantly crush his body, which is how Springtrap was born, hence why you could see a corpse within the suit. The entity lured Springtrap into the fog, so now instead of killing children in the real world, he's gonna be killing all the children that are gonna start playing this game because Five Nights at Freddy's is in it now. Springtrap's power is rather simple, but does have a crazy high skill ceiling. In my opinion, this is the perfect balance design because it'll be easy to play him, but difficult to master him. His main ability is this fire axe that you can throw, which doesn't have any similarities to any other killer in Dead by Daylight. If it hits a survivor, it does a damage state and requires them to move it, which takes about 8 seconds at the time of recording. While the axe is embedded in the survivor, it gives you 2 benefits. The survivor becomes oblivious, so they can't see your red stain or hear your tear radius, which can allow you to make some sneaky plays. And 2, if you're able to get close to the survivor before they can take the axe out, you can instantly jump scare them to pick them up. This is a great way to save time over the course of the match or to stop survivors quickly in a dire situation. However, if you miss the survivor, which knowing you is going to happen a lot, the axe will hit the environment and have a small radius that will detect any survivor that comes in contact with it. It even works through lockers, so if you don't feel like spending 2 seconds to check a locker, you can spend 2 seconds throwing your axe on the locker instead. Then, after a short period of time, you can recall the axe to be able to use it again. His other ability allows him to teleport through these security doors that you'll find around the map. These doors spawn near generators, and you can enter them to teleport to any other door, similar to something like Demogorgon's portals or Xenomorph's tunnels. This is a fantastic way to get around the map and will help you keep up the map pressure, which is the downside of a lot of other ranged killers like Huntress, Trickster, and Deathslinger. Plus, there is quite literally 0 cooldown for this, so you can constantly keep pressure up around the map. When you exit one of the doors, you become undetectable for a bit, so survivors won't be able to hear your tear radius or see your red stain, which is a great way to throw them off. Right now, you might be able to get some grabs off of generators, but in a couple weeks, once people start learning how this killer works, this is likely not going to happen very often. But with the undetectable thing in mind, you should use these teleports to your advantage to catch survivors in bad positions as much as possible. Springtrap has a very high skill ceiling, so here are some strengths that you should take advantage of when playing this killer. Fast downs. Just like Huntress, if you're able to get close to a survivor before using your axe, it'll give you a much higher chance of being able to jump scare them while they still have the axe in them and be able to end the chase super quickly. Orbitals. The axe is surprisingly heavy, so unlike Huntress's axe, you will have to look a lot higher to be able to get hits from further distances. However, you can use this to your advantage because if you look almost straight up, you'll be surprised at the hits that you can get over tall walls. Mobility. Obviously, you're able to get around the map relatively quickly with your doors, so even on large maps like Ormond, you won't struggle to get from one side of the map to the other. Stealth. Since you become stealthy when you teleport, you're able to be pretty stealthy for a good portion of the trial. You should really take advantage of this by teleporting constantly to catch survivors in worse positions. RNG. If you somehow win the lottery, you'll be able to instantly grab a survivor if they're using the doors at the same time that you. However, there's a common misconception right now that you will grab the survivor as long as you are both using any door simultaneously, but this is incorrect. You'll only grab the survivor if you're both using the same door. Pro tip though, if you're currently in a door and you hear this beep sound, look around for a door that's yellow and teleport to it. This is an indication that a survivor is using that door, so you'll get a free grab. And since you didn't know that, you owe me a like and a smack of that subscribe button, or I'm sending Foxy to your house. Spawn. Unless I'm forgetting someone, every other killer with a teleport ability has a cooldown at the start of the match. However, Springtrap doesn't, which lets you instantly teleport to survivors right when the game starts. This is an insanely strong part of his kit. Plus, survivors are now guaranteed to spawn together by default, so you can start pressuring multiple people within just a few seconds of starting the match. Bait. If you go in a door, you can hear everything outside of the door while remaining undetectable, so this is a great way to bait survivors into thinking you left a specific area. I'll talk about some really useful situations where you can use this to your advantage later in the video. Perk synergies. The fact that he is undetectable so often during a match and has great mobility gives him a ton of awesome perk synergies. Here are some of my favorite perks to use on him. I'll put all links to the wiki of each of these perks in case you don't know what they do. Imolier shows you the auras of survivors that fastfall and chase, so you can use this information to get easy axe hits through windows. Unforeseen makes it so that when you kick a gen, your tear radius is applied to that gen for a certain amount of time. This significantly amplifies your stealth playstyle and can get you some free hits. Thrilling Tremors basically blocks all generators when you pick up a survivor, but doesn't block ones that are currently being worked on. So when you hook a survivor, you know exactly where to teleport to. Some alternative perks that do something similar would be Barbecue and Chili, Friends Till the End, and Scourge Hook Floods of Rage. Dragon's Grip is a super fun perk to use on him. It basically traps a generator for 30 seconds when you kick it, and if a survivor touches that gen within those 30 seconds, they become exposed, meaning you can instantly down them with a basic attack. Since you have no teleport cooldown, it's really easy to go back to that survivor as soon as they touch the gen. Or you could bait the survivor by kicking the gen, getting in a door, and then getting out of the door when you hear them scream. Make Your Choice activates when a survivor is on a hook and you are far away. This causes the person getting the unhook to become exposed for a whole minute, so you can teleport near them and hopefully down them while they're still. Mindbreaker is an absolute godsend on this character, and I'll get to why in the next section of this video. And last but not least, my personal favorite perk for this killer, Lethal Pursuer. Lethal Pursuer shows you the auras of every single survivor at the start of the match for like 10 seconds, and since you have zero teleport cooldown when the game starts, you can instantly teleport to the survivors as soon as you spawn, which is an insanely strong way to start gaining pressure as quickly as possible. Plus, this perk extends other aura reading perks by 2 seconds, so if you're using something like Imoliers or Barbecue and Chili, it'll make them even stronger. Although Springtrap does have a lot of strengths, he does have quite a bit of weaknesses that you should take note of. Speed. Most killers move at a speed of 4.6 meters per second, which is 15% faster than survivors, but Springtrap moves at 4.4 meters per second, which is only 10% faster than survivors. So if you're just chasing people in loops, it's going to be much more difficult to catch up. However, as soon as you throw your axe, you become a 4.6 killer until you recall it. So with that in mind, stop recalling your axe as soon as you're able to. I see so many people doing this. If you're not going to go for a shot, you shouldn't recall your axe so you can keep that additional 5% speed and chase. Only recall it if you're in a position when you want to use your axe. Plus, if the axe is embedded in the survivor, you basically get wall hacks on them until they remove the axe, and sometimes this might be even more useful than going for another shot. Cameras. Just like FNAF 3, Springtrap's weakness is being seen on the cameras. Survivors are able to interact with these cameras on top of each door to look around the map. If they look at you with these cameras for long enough, they'll reveal your aura to every single survivor for 10 seconds. They can also extend this time if they continue to track you on the cameras. So if you ever hear a high-pitched static sound, that means someone is looking at you through a camera. And this might be a bug, but currently cameras can reveal you through walls as long as they're pointed in your general direction. So once survivors learn this, it'll be much more difficult to avoid being scanned unless you use the perk Mindbreaker, which I mentioned earlier. This perk basically just keeps survivors blind for the majority of the game, and blindness prevents survivors from seeing auras, so it'll stop the cameras from revealing your position. Doors. Doors spawn near generators, so if survivors are smart about when they use doors, such as when a different survivor is being chased, it can significantly cut down on traversal time for them, making gens go by a lot quicker. You can also throw your axe at doors to disable them entirely, which not only disables the camera, but also prevents survivors from using the door in general, but I don't know if this will be super useful. Distance. Since your axe is so heavy, you're not actually able to go for long-range shots, so it's quite difficult to catch up to survivors who are far away. Your best bet is to constantly be teleporting around the map to catch survivors off guard with your undetectable status effect. Skill ceiling. To actually get good with this killer, you need to learn the physics of his axe, which takes a bit of getting used to. Unlike Huntress, Springtrap's axe is significantly heavier and only goes 14 meters, which is 2 meters shorter than a Deathslinger shot. So learning where you need to look to throw an axe over a wall and hit a survivor takes some practice and requires being good at the game, hence why I'm doing this in a custom map. A useless feature. Survivors can remove the axe from their teammates quicker than the survivor just removing the axe from themselves, but let's be real, when is this ever going to happen? And even if it does happen, how is saving a couple seconds going to affect anything in the game at all? Super secret counter that'll make Springtrap significantly worse when people learn about it. Survivors can tell when you're coming to their door because the screen will be flashing. And this also applies to the bait strategy I talked about earlier. Remember how you can bait survivors by going into a door then coming back out of the same exact door? Well, survivors can tell that you're still in the door because the screen will be flashing until you leave. Also, I figured I'd mention this even though it's low-key useless information. The screen flashing thing also happens if survivors are coming out of a door. I can't see a world where this will help you because survivors are just gonna, burst out of that door anyway, but I guess it's good to know. Springtrap has a ton of super fun add-ons that can amplify various playstyles and perk builds. Here are some of my personal favorite add-ons that I would recommend using. If you want to understand where your axe will travel a bit better when you're learning this killer, the Help Wanted ad gives you a little indicator. Though after a game or two, I think you should really take this off. For the Browns, Restaurant Menu and Greasy Paper Plate are really nice quality of life buffs. Restaurant Menu lets you retrieve a missed axe 20% faster, and Greasy Paper Plate makes survivors take longer to remove the axe from their back. Streamers is one of my favorite add-ons. It makes you travel through doors 20% faster, and since I use doors pretty much once every 20 to 30 seconds, this saves me a ton of time. Security Guard's badge increases the undetectable length after teleporting by 50%, which is a very useful stat increase. Purple Guy Drawing is a super fun add-on to combo with Celebrate Poster. Purple Guy Drawing makes any survivor with an axe on them reveal their aura for 3 seconds if they fast vault, and Celebrate Poster makes it so that you and the survivor become 12% faster and have a 20% faster vault speed when they're embedded with the axe. So comboing these lets you be super fast while having wall hacks, and I'm sure you can imagine why that's good. Access Panel is a super unique add-on. I don't know if it'll be very useful because it's so difficult to actually get use out of it. It allows you to throw your axe through the security doors and have them come out on the other end. You can see which door it'll come out of by looking at the ones they're linked to on the door itself. If someone manages to hit a shot like this, please at me on Twitter with a clip. The 2 Eerie add-ons are surprisingly useful as well, at least for the way I enjoy playing this killer. Fazcoin makes it so that when you throw your axe, you become undetectable for 10 seconds and your axe gains a fake 24-meter tear radius until it's reclaimed. This can be quite useful for doing various stealth mind games or keeping your axe in a certain area to dissuade survivors from going near it. Iridescent Remnant blocks all upright pallets within 32 meters of the door you teleport to. This unironically may be one of his best add-ons because if you're taking advantage of the doors frequently, you're going to catch survivors in terrible positions very often. But the strongest add-on by far is a blue add-on called Bonnie's Guitar Strings, which allows you to see the progress of every single generator on the map while you're using the doors. This add-on is actually insane. Being able to know exactly which generator to go to saves so much time and creates so much pressure, which is why this add-on tends to be higher rarity on other killers like Wraith, who has the Iridescent All-Seeing Spirit add-on, which does the same exact thing. By the time this video comes out, I wouldn't be surprised if this was nerfed, so be sure to read the description before putting it on. To be honest, the perks that came with Springtrap are a little bit underwhelming, but can be used well in some very niche situations. Help Wanted makes a generator compromised when you kick it, and only one generator can be compromised at a time. When a compromised gen is completed, your cooldown after hitting a survivor with a basic attack becomes 25% faster for 60 seconds. This can be somewhat helpful, but perks that require survivors to trigger them, rather than being by your own volition, tend to be too RNG reliant for my taste. His next perk is called Phantom Fear, which is probably my favorite one of the bunch. This perk makes any survivor scream while they look at you while in your tear radius, which reveals their aura for 2 seconds and puts the perk on a 60-second cooldown. This is a really useful perk in those situations where you can't find any survivor, and it'll prevent those dead periods of time from happening in the match. Good survivors know how to use selective stealth in certain situations, which can make your killer life super miserable, and this perk effectively counters that. His last perk is called Haywire, which regresses gate progress at 100% speed if the gate was above 80% progress. This is basically the perk to prevent 99ing gates, and it's pretty awful, so just don't use it. If this video helped you, consider liking the video and commenting which killer you want to see next. If you're enjoying DBD Killer and want to know which killer you should buy or unlock next, check out this video here. Lots of people found it helpful, and I think you will too. Also, I do have a Discord server, so if you're trying to find friends to play with or want to discuss anything DBD related, feel free to join, link in the description below.